All right. So hello, this is Xavier Clark, your local hometown lender here in Augusta, Georgia, and I have the pleasure of sitting with Vilma Colon Oliver, who is not only a world-class mother, model wife, active member of the community, a world-class beauty, but also a world-class realtor. And Vilma, 4 or 5 years in a row, President's Club for top sales, top production, always giving top customer service. I can testify, I've seen you paint a house after closing, one of our closings, and just a really great realtor to work with. Along with you and your assistant Simone, you guys speak 3 or 4 languages between the two of you guys. And anyways, we've had a lot of pleasure of doing a lot of business together in the past, and we have a few things currently going on. So I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and talk.
Sure.
So Vilma, I was hoping you could tell everyone some of the advantages of buying a home, just generally speaking, not just the primary residence, but maybe other properties. What are some of the advantages to doing that?
Well, the obvious is that you would be making payments towards a house that would belong to you at some point versus throwing money out the window when you make payments on a rental.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, at the end of the year, you can deduct the interest on the loan and on your taxes. So that's an advantage as well.
Definitely. So you kind of get the tax advantages, and you don't have to throw away money on rent.
Right. And then in our area, you actually do better if you purchase because
What do you mean by
you
that?
will pay a higher payment on the same house if you were renting it versus buying it.
Sure. So those are definitely some good advantages. Now, can you walk us through the home buying process a little bit, just as a refresher to maybe those who have bought a house before, but also for those looking to kind of make the leap for the first time? Can I walk us through it from start to finish?
Sure. So if you want to buy a house, you first have to figure out how much you can afford. And you don't really know that. A professional loan officer, such as Xavier,
Sure.
can help you by looking at your finances and your credit score, can help you figure out how much you can afford.
Right.
And once he tells you, that's becoming pre-qualified. So once you're pre-qualified, then you know the range that you can be looking in.
Okay.
And
So talk to a lender, figure out what you can buy and afford.
Right.
Okay.
And then you can start looking online. You can contact a realtor. You can contact me. And at that point, you can be looking specifically at houses that you can afford, and you don't waste time looking at houses that you cannot afford.
Sure. And then when you find a house that you like, what kind of happens after that?
So when you find a house that you like and you have your pre-qualification letter from your lender, you can put in an offer, and your real estate agent, your realtor, can help you decide what amount you should offer. Your realtor will help you look at comparables that have sold in that neighborhood, have sold in nearby neighborhoods, and what a good amount to offer would be. And then of course she can write the contract for you and present it for you.
Okay. And then after you're under contract, you just close the next day, or?
You don't close the next day.
That would be great,
So
wouldn't it?
in this area we have, the Georgia contract gives a period of time called the due diligence period, and it's a number that we write in the number of days. I usually put 10 business days, but then so the person has those 10 business days to conduct inspections. That would be a home inspection and a termite inspection. The home inspection is normally paid by the buyer. The termite inspection can be paid by the buyer or the seller. It depends on how the contract is written. And once you conduct the inspection, the inspector will give you an inspection report, and in the report it'll give everything that may be wrong with the house. And at that point, you and your realtor discuss what you would like repaired, and the realtor writes an amendment to address concerns with all the items that the buyer wants the seller to repair. And all that has to be done and submitted to that seller prior to the end of the due diligence period.
Okay. So assuming all that goes well, due diligence is over, and then what happens after that?
So So, and just to say, the seller may choose not to do some of those items.
Sure, sure.
But you work it all out and due diligence is over. And then after that, the lender will order an appraisal of the house, and then the house gets appraisal. Most contracts, in one place or another, there's an appraisal contingency that protects you against having to pay more than the house is worth. So the appraisal gets done, you find out what the appraisal amount is. If you're okay with what you're paying, then you move forward. If it turns out that your contracted amount is higher than the appraisal amount, then at that point you can reduce the contracted amount to the appraisal amount. And most sellers will agree to do that. Every so often a seller won't, and of course the buyer has the right to back out at that point.
Sure. That's a very good explanation. And obviously there's a lot of moving pieces on both ends and a lot of communication, and even on the lending side there's things happening. So getting to closing, what happens at closing? Is it normally pretty smooth after the appraisal? In your experience, you've seen?
So if you're working with a professional loan officer such as Xavier, it's pretty smooth. You know, we're all doing our part to make sure that we get to the closing table. There's an attorney, a closing attorney involved, and of course they have to do their part as well. They order a title search of the property to make sure that there aren't any liens on that property and that the seller is conveying clear and marketable title. And so once all that is done, then we have a closing date, and the lender has already told the buyer in advance if the buyer has to bring money to the table or not, how much, how the money has to be brought, you know, in the form of a cashier's check or wired to the attorney's account. And then also the realtor will have advised the buyer to have utilities changed to the buyer's name. The buyer also will have selected an insurance company for homeowners insurance.
Okay.
And so that will have been done between the lender and the buyer. And so all that will be in place by the time we get to the closing table.
Very good. That was very, very concise. I know there's a lot of moving pieces. You condensed it very well, and you know you sell millions of dollars of real estate every year, so you definitely have a lot of experience with the process. So just kind of in closing, what are a few things that buyers should know that they may not be aware of in buying a house?
Yeah. So the one thing that I always make sure that I tell buyers when I meet with them is that they understand, and I actually write this down for them, that they understand that they need money right at the beginning of starting a transaction. Like when they put an offer, they're gonna need money for what we call earnest money, which is a deposit of sorts that gets placed with the offer, showing good faith that the buyer really is serious about buying the house. So on a $200,000 house that in this area, it's usually $1,000, it could be $1,500. If you want your offer to be stronger, you could make it more. That money gets accredited to the buyer at closing, but the buyer needs to pay it up front. So if you're gonna put down $1,000, you gotta have those $1,000. Then you're gonna have to have money for the inspection. On a $200,000 house, it'll be in the neighborhood of $350. Then if you pay for your own termite inspection, you're gonna need another between $45 and $90, depending on who you use. And then you're gonna need money for the appraisal. That's gonna be paid up front, 2 weeks into the process, just about.
Well, we luckily don't charge up front unless you don't close. Then we have to charge you. At least we do.
So
Other places are different.
yeah, so that's great. That's great. So those $500 you don't need up front with you guys, so
That's right.
they can be handled at closing. That's good, because some people may not have the $500. So yeah, but those knowing that you will need money in advance, even before that loan gets applied for and started, that you're gonna have to have some money in your pocket. it's very important.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Vilma, I really appreciate the time. It's been very educational, even for me, even though we both do this every day and we do a lot of business together, and I feel blessed to work with you. And
And the same for me.
yeah,
You do a great job, and that's why I call you again and again.
well, I appreciate that, and look forward to working with you a little bit more. Vilma Colon Oliver with Maybon Realtors, and I thank you again, and look forward to some more closings with you.
You're welcome.
You guys take care.